It's the nearest I get about trying to impart any wisdom. But I must admit, when I walk in the room, it's always one-on-one with one of the students. I walk in the room, I say, let me tell you first, I don't know how to do this.
When people think of music legends, they imagine perfection, crystal clear vocals, flawless outfits, and magical performances that feel larger than life. But what if I told you the real story was never on the stage? It was behind it. Paul McCartney has revealed shocking backstage secrets the world was never meant to hear. And no, they weren't about fame, money, or ego. They were about something far more human and far more shocking. Hidden inside cramped dressing rooms were moments so intense, so uncomfortable, and so unforgettable that they haunted him for decades. Today, we expose the 9 legendary singers whose presence was powerful, unforgettable, and sometimes overwhelming. Stay until the end, because number 1 will leave you stunned. It all began with Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. On August 27, 1965, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr walked into a sealed rehearsal room at MGM Studios to meet Elvis for the first time. The room was closed tightly, the air conditioner barely working, and the heat from the studio lights made the air feel thick and warm. Elvis had just finished intense rehearsals for a film, and sweat soaked through costumes that hadn't been changed. When Paul opened the door, the air hit him like a physical wave. He said he could tell Elvis was inside before he even saw him. The smell wasn't cruel, it wasn't judgmental, it was human. It was the reality of a legend working under pressure. That moment changed Paul's view of fame forever. Soon after that experience came Bob Dylan, a man whose genius shaped generations. On August 28, 1964, inside room 603 of the Delmonico Hotel in New York, Paul felt the hallway air grow strangely heavy. At first he thought there might be smoke from a fire. Instead, the door opened and Bob Dylan stepped forward wearing a long, dark coat that had clearly lived through countless late nights. The smell of burnt tobacco, old fabric, and trapped moisture surrounded him. Paul later said it felt like standing beside a jacket that had a long, complicated history of its own. Studio workers admitted they often opened windows after Dylan left the room, letting the air clear before the next session. Dylan's music was revolutionary, but the man himself carried the physical marks of a restless life. Then there was Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, a force of nature that Paul never forgot. In 1968, during filming for Top of the Pops at Lime Grove Studios in London, the halogen stage lights turned the studio into an oven. Mick Jagger ran, leaped, twisted, and spun across the stage with explosive energy. Sweat poured from him so heavily that streaks formed on the studio floor. Paul stood nearby and felt a wave of heated moisture move through the air as Mick rushed past him. Later that year, at Twickenham Studios during preparations for the Rock and Roll Circus, the lighting was so intense that vapor visibly rose from the floor. Mick refused to change clothes between takes because he didn't want to lose the energy. Crew members followed him with large cloths just to keep the floor dry. Paul respected him deeply, but he admitted that standing near Mick during those moments was overwhelming. The next unforgettable presence was Diana Ross inside Hitsville Us, Motown Studio A, in Detroit in 1973. The studio was small, sealed, and dangerously hot. Technicians closed windows to control the sound, trapping heat inside. When Diana entered the room, her massive, perfectly styled hair was held in place by layers of heavy hairspray. The moment she walked past Paul, the scent of chemicals mixed with heat and human warmth created a thick cloud in the air. It wasn't a bad smell. It was a powerful one. Makeup teams later admitted that industrial fans were often used when she walked into confined spaces. She looked flawless on stage, but behind the scenes, the air around her told a different story, a story of pressure, perfection, and intense performance. That reality became even clearer when Cher entered the picture at CBS Television City, Studio 43 in Los Angeles in 1972. During filming of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, she descended a staircase wearing a tight, metallic dress made of hundreds of small reflective pieces. The dress trapped heat like armor. When she moved past Paul, a wave of sealed warmth escaped from the costume. It smelled like damp fabric that had been locked inside metal. Stylists working with the show admitted they had to dry and ventilate her outfits between takes. Cher wasn't unclean. She was trapped inside fashion that refused to breathe. The air around her was thick, warm, and unforgettable. Like standing too close to stage lights for too long. Another powerful legend Paul encountered was Aretha Franklin in September 1973 at a major event hosted by Capitol Records in Chicago. Paul stood near the stage curtains when Aretha finished her final performance of the night. The spotlight made dark patches appear on her shimmering dress as perspiration spread. When she stepped off stage and walked past him, he felt a warm, heavy wave of air brush his face. The scent wasn't rotten or ugly, it was intense. It was the smell of a woman who gave her entire soul to every note. Studio stories often described how windows fogged up when she sang, and technicians had to wipe condensation from glass. When Aretha passed Paul that night, he understood that the power of her voice came from the power of her body and spirit. But the hardest stories to forget involved someone. Paul could never distance himself from John Lennon. In the early 1960s, inside the packed underground heat of the Cavern Club in Liverpool, the ceiling trapped cigarette smoke and human heat. John sang with a ferocity that pushed sweat from his body constantly. When he leaned close to Paul to harmonize, the warmth from his shirt rose against Paul's skin. Microphone cloths held John's scent longer than anyone else's. Later, during the Revolver sessions at Abbey Road Studios in London in 1966, the sealed recording rooms made everything more intense. When John walked past, the air shifted instantly, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of hard work and raw effort. Paul never judged him. He remembered him. Then there was George Harrison, quiet and gentle but impossible to ignore. During rehearsals at Abbey Road Studios in 1965, George walked in wearing his signature black turtleneck sweater made from thick wool. Paul, with his back turned, felt the air change before he even saw him. The heat trapped inside the fabric carried a warm, heavy scent that spread slowly through the room. This wasn't about carelessness, it was about habit. George wore thick, heat-retaining clothes in every kind of weather. During a long van ride from Birmingham to Manchester in 1966, the closed windows in George's stage outfit slowly filled the vehicle with a damp, warm atmosphere. Crew members often aired out his outfits before shows because the scent lingered so strongly. The intensity reached another level with Tom Jones in 1971, inside the legendary Savoy Theatre in London. During a charity event recorded by Thames Television, the moment Tom finished his thunderous performance of Delilah, the entire atmosphere behind the curtain shifted. The crowd roared, the lights burned hot, and the backstage corridor seemed to tighten with heat. When Paul McCartney stepped forward to greet him, he felt it instantly. The air felt thick, almost physical. It wasn't just simple perspiration. It was a powerful mix of sweat, heavy cologne, hair oil, and stage fabric that had been baking under relentless lighting. Even the microphone Tom had used was soaked and had to be wiped again and again before anyone else could touch it. Paul later admitted that he truly adored Tom, but standing shoulder to shoulder with him in that moment required real effort, not from disrespect, but from the overwhelming intensity of Tom's presence. But the most unforgettable memory belonged to Janis Joplin in 1969. At a gathering in Laurel Canyon, Los Angeles, hosted by Mama Cass, Janis didn't simply walk into the room. She exploded into it. There was no soft entrance, no quiet arrival. Her boots were dusty from the road, her hair was wild and unrestrained, and her clothes carried the marks of countless nights on stage and endless miles traveled. The air around her told a story before she ever spoke. Liquor had soaked into her fabric. Cigarette smoke clung tightly to her hair, and the scent of a life lived fast and fearlessly surrounded her like a storm. When she hugged Paul, the sharpness of her presence caught him completely off guard. It wasn't unpleasant, it was powerful. It felt like rebellion, survival, and pure, unfiltered rock and roll wrapped into one unforgettable moment. And unlike many other memories, that scent didn't disappear quickly. It stayed with him, clinging to memory long after the night was over. By the end of these memories, Paul McCartney understood something powerful. Music doesn't only live in sound. It lives in breath, in warmth, in sweat, and in the invisible traces artists leave behind long after the stage lights fade. Behind the glamour and perfection, legends were never flawless. They were real, human, and alive. And maybe that's exactly why their music still touches our souls today. If you love discovering the hidden stories behind music's biggest icons, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who loves music history, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss what happens when the lights go off.